Hi, boys and girls. Today we're going to talk about some vocabulary in your story called A Southern Ranch. The first word is treasure. They use it as a verb. It means to keep something carefully or to value it. If you have a favorite toy that you don't want to break, you might treasure it. You might not let others play with it. You might keep it in a safe place. So you're treasuring it. Ranch. That's going to be another fancy word for a large farm. And that's where our story takes place. The ranch hands are people who work on the ranch. So you can think of them as cowboys. Livestock. These are farm animals that are used for money. So they're going to sell the animal or parts of the animal for money. And the livestock they talk about in the story are cows and sheep, goats and cattle. They're going to talk about something being sold. They're going to sell livestock and items from the farm. And that's when you transfer goods and items for money. So when you go to the store and you buy something, you give somebody a credit card or money and you get the item in return. Now, front means being first in line. And I put a picture of a train here to show you that train car is in the front of the train. It's the first one, so he's in the front. Point. Directing someone's attention to something, usually using your finger. And in this case, they're going to use their finger in a nice manner to point which way they would like to go. Roundup. That's a gathering of people or things or animals. So in this story, they're going to round up the cattle. So they're gathering all the cattle and they're moving them to another spot. Gleams, to shine brightly. So if they talk about the moon gleaming at night, it's shining brightly. They talk about the sun, that's also gleaming. You can be gleaming into your eyes, shining brightly. Now, the ranch hands or cowboys will use something called a lasso. A lasso is a rope with a loop on one end to catch animals. It can also mean to catch an animal with a rope. And I put a picture here of a cowboy catching a small cattle that looks like they might be at a rodeo, and he's using a lasso to do that. Herd is a large group of animals. So when they talk about the herd of cattle in the story, that means a lot of them together. And lead, they're going to use that as a verb in the story. It means to cause an animal to move forward or to go somewhere. So they're going to be leading the animals or the cattle to another spot. And I put a picture of a dog with a leash on because usually when you take your dog for a walk, you're leading them where you want them to go. Now, the animals in the story eat things called hay and grain. Hay is dry grass, and if you ever driving around near farms, you might see hay kind of bundled up into a barrel form when it's dried up. And then grain is wheat or another cereal grain used as food, and there's a picture of it there. If you had Cheerios this morning or shredded wheat, you ate something made out of grains. Grazing means to feed on grass. So then when they talk about the animals grazing, they're just outside nibbling the grass. Might is the past tense of may or something is possible. So if somebody says that might happen, that means it might happen, meaning it's possible it might happen. It's possible it'll happen. And I put an emoji of somebody shrugging their shoulders because sometimes people do that when they say that might happen. Well trained. Having good training or instruction. So in this case, there are dogs in the story that are trained to help the ranch hands. So they need good instruction on what to do. And here's a picture of a dog going through an obstacle course, and he was well trained to do that. Steered, to guide or control the movement of something or an animal. So they're going to be steering the cattle in one direction. I put a picture of a steering wheel to help you remember that in a car, when you use a steering wheel, you're making the car go right and left. You're guiding the movement. Bunches. That means a group of the same thing. I have a picture of bunches of carrots here. So when they talk about the bunches of animals, it might be all the goats are together. It's a bunch of the goats. All the cattle, it's a bunch of cattle. It's the same animal or same thing together. Dusty means covered in dry dirt. The ranch hands work all day on the ranch. It's dirty outside and it's dry dirt. They come inside and they have that kind of dust on their boots, and you can wipe it off with your fingers. They probably need to bathe because they're really dirty. And the last word is weary. It means tired and exhausted. They've worked so hard outside all day that they are so tired and exhausted. Their ranch hands are very weary. I put a picture of a sleepy kitty there. I hope these words help you while you look at your story and listen to it this week.